What is the true definition of fashion? Is it the use or custom mode that is in vogue for some time? Victorian fashion is a big part of the Victorian era, especially in the women. With the women's fashion, you find a wide variety of things that they wear. Their clothes have the most variety. Their clothes are elaborated and restrictive. Most of the clothes are created by Queen Victoria. It affected the way they walked, sat, or tried to move their arms. It came in a wide variety of colors, mostly green, which this dress right here is green. It cut in a style to show off the figure, which right here you can tell that on the hips it's more in. First, they would put on the drawers, then they would put on the slip, then they would put on the corset, then they would put on the petticoat, then they would put on the camisole, then they would put on the bustle, then they would put on the underskirt, and lastly they would put on the final skirt or the jacket or t-shirt, and then they would go out and get dressed. Undergarments were usually flexible with steel to make it more comfortable. One or two skirts were usually worn. The underskirt was longer and the top skirt was worn normally like an apron. The underskirt flared from the knees to create fullness, and lots of times they wore a shawl. After they have their clothes on, they pick out their shoes. Before the Victorian era, they had a right foot and a left foot, but it was the same shoe. During the Victorian era, it changed that the right foot and left foot, instead of being interchangeable, are two separate shoes. Usually they wear boots, like this one right here. It used to be rubber, and then it used to be leather, and then it changed to rubber. In the 19th century, it began mass production, which made all of the shoes cheaper. And they were usually heels with pointed or square toes, like you can see in the picture. Another big accessory is hats. Some of the hats were for protection of the sun, and later they became a symbol of statement and authority, which you can see one of them right here. They always wore a hat when they went out. Birds were used as decorating pieces, but in here you can see feathers or a big bow, or both. They were made from velvet, satin, or cotton. The most romantic looking was the leghorn straw with a wide brim dipped down at the back and slightly at the front, which this picture is right here. Along with the hats comes their hair under the hat. The hair was the most valued thing on them. It was rarely cut, and if it was cut, it was usually because they were ill. The hair was usually parted down the middle, like you can see in this picture. It was either curled or braided. This picture is curled, and this picture is braided, and then they had it tied or pinned up, which both of them are, except for the front of this woman's hair. Just a couple inches away from the hair is the face and makeup. The women liked to look fragile. They liked to look pale and interesting. The upper class lady did not work in the country, so she was not dark skinned. They usually put blue lines on their face so that it would look like veins, and so they would look, their skin would look translucent and delicate. Sometimes actresses made homemade makeup so that they could look better on stage. They induced the paleness by drinking vinegar or not going out in fresh air. If there's anything else there is to say, here it is. Some other accessories were shawls, cloaks, mantles, scarves, and little aprons. Brooches were worn around the throat area. They wore earrings. They were either big earrings or small earrings. They wore boas, and they also most of the time they had fans, which was a really big part. Overall, the women's fashion is a big part of the Victorian era, and if you look at it closely, it can tell a story.